So this week has been full of many surprises, and one of the biggest surprises is that the Silicon Valley Bank has collapsed. This is the second largest bank to collapse since the Great Financial Crisis, and this is the 16th largest bank here in the United States today, or yesterday. It is also one of the top 500 companies in the United States, and this collapse is going to have a ripple effect across the entire U.S. economy. I want to explain why in just a minute. First, Silicon Valley's bank held funds for hundreds of U.S. tech companies. And even though the media was speculating yesterday that these accounts will be fine because they're FDIC insured, this isn't the case for all of their money. Like I said, Silicon Valley Bank held money for U.S. tech companies. Most of these companies had well over the $250,000 limit, which means FDIC is only going to insure the first $250,000. Everything after that, we don't know. But it's because of this. More than 95% of the bank's deposits were uninsured, according to a report back in December. As of today, we know at least 85 to 95% of the bank's deposits were not insured. Just let that sink in for a second, because this is just the start of this ripple effect. The bank collapses. Okay. That means the depositors, are they going to get their money back? In most cases, no, they're not. And if they don't get their money back, how do they do things like payroll? How do they pay their bills? Their debts? What do they do? Now, all these companies are simply scrambling at this point just to meet payroll and pay their bills within the next week. Right now, it is March 11th. I'm shooting this video on March 11th. Most of these companies have 4 days to figure out where they're going to get the money to make payroll. Just think about that. When 6 out of 10 Americans making over $100,000 per year are living paycheck to paycheck, this could mean that their debts become unpaid. So again, remember the ripple effect. We saw the bank collapse. The businesses aren't going to get their money. So how are they going to pay their workers? Their workers aren't going to get their money. So how are they going to pay their debts? Their mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, okay, their medications. How are they going to do any of that stuff? Don't know. Now, again, you may be thinking, the FDIC, they will get their money back. And they could, okay? But keep in mind, this could take many months. This could also take years just to settle. Let me read a statement from regulators. They say, and I quote, "As the FDIC sells the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, future dividend payments may be made to uninsured depositors." It says may be made. Not that they will. There is a possibility. But again, they have to sell the assets of Silicon Valley Bank first. But as for now, these clients don't know what to do. Here's the problem. The problem right now is that investors and the American people are panicked. I believe we're all panicked that other banks are going to follow suit. They're going to fall into this same trap. But again, what is this trap and how did the Silicon Valley Bank actually fail? Well, let's talk about that. It's actually pretty simple. Well, there's a lot more to it, but let me just break it down in a very simple form. First, the bank faced liquidity problems. Because of this, they need to sell off some of their assets, which they were going to sell off U.S. government bonds. And because U.S. government bonds that they had, they would have to sell them at a loss in order to raise capital. Now, when they announced this move, what happened is it caused mass panic, and clients attempted to pull money out of the bank. Now, when a bank experiences a bank run, they usually have to sell more assets in order to come up with the money in order to pay the withdrawals. The problem there is, again, that the assets that they held were actually losses at this time. This is why it turned into a major issue. This is why the bank collapsed. And again, this is part of the reason why smaller banks are now adjusting the way that they do business in order to protect themselves and their clients from this happening to them. But like I said, it's just the beginning. And it's tough to say, but we are anticipating more banks are going to collapse. We've seen this over in Europe. We are now experiencing this here in the United States. Yes, we did see Silvergate. They went through massive pain just days or a day or two before the Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. But these are two banks, and there's others that are seeing bank runs right now as well. But here's the problem. If we see more bank runs, the banks are going to have to start to liquidate some of their assets. They're going to have to get money so that they can pay their depositors. And this could create a massive financial crisis. Now, some say we're going to see a ripple effect across the U.S., across the entire U.S. because of this one bank collapsing. And the fact that the bank fully collapsed in less than 48 hours. This is what has financial experts worried. They say because if one of the top 5 banks were to experience this exact same thing, it would cause a financial crisis of epic proportions almost instantly. Now, just to give you an idea, who are the top 5 banks? Well, according to Bankrate just 4 days ago, the top 5 banks are JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America is number 2, Citigroup 3, Wells Fargo 4, and US Bancorp is number 5, followed by PNC Financial Services number 6, Truist Financial, and then Goldman Sachs is what they have right here. These are the 15 largest banks in the United States. So that was according to Bankrate.com. Now, here's what I can tell you. This year is going to be different. And I bring this up because we are going to see massive layoffs, and not just because of this bank collapsing. We are going to see massive layoffs across the tech industry, across retail, the financials, real estate. We are going to see it. Okay? Now, the reason I bring this up and the reason why, again, I continue to do 2 to 3, sometimes 4 videos a day here on YouTube is simple. Because by the time you hear these stories in mainstream media, that's your CNN, it's your Fox News, your ABC News, your Bloomberg TV, by the time you see these stories, guess what happens? Well, for one, it's too late. If you are being told to get your money out of the bank and you start hearing it on CNN, guess what? Everyone else is hearing it on CNN as well. But here's the problem. In order for a story to get onto CNN, get it onto their TV, guess what has to happen? Well, first, somebody actually has to come up with the story. Okay, has to go to an editor and a writer and has to get approval. It's not just something that somebody can throw up in the matter of seconds. So here on YouTube, it's different. I don't have an editor. I do, but not that I need to go through every single video. Okay, I don't have somebody that I need to get prior approval from. If I want to do a video on, hey, a bank is collapsing, go get your money now before it's gone, I can do that. I don't need prior approval. And so that's the reason why I bring this up, is because most people get their news through mainstream media. But again, in situations like this, by the time you hear it on CNN, it's too late. It is just too late. So, I just wanted to fill you in on this because, again, this bank collapse is going to create a ripple effect throughout the entire U.S. economy. We know this, okay? This is not something that people are just making up. We are going to feel this. Banks are going to change the way that they're doing business. Not entirely, because they just can't, okay? The banks are pretty much made a certain way, so they can't change their entire business model, but they are going to have to adjust so that they do not experience the exact same thing that the Silicon Valley Bank just experienced this past week. Now, the last thing I just want to say is be prepared. Have some money set aside, have some money, have some cash on hand. Okay? Have other assets as well, because who knows, maybe cash won't be king pretty soon. We have no idea. All right? So make sure you are diversified, make sure you're prepared, because who knows what's going to happen next. But I promise I will be here every step of the way. I will fill you in on what is going on here in the US economy. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.